Teleportation will commence in 5 minutes. Do not leave any luggage unattended. Unattended luggage will be removed and destroyed. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. This is an announcement from Planet X31. Please take your seats. Teleportation will commence in 2 minutes.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Columbia, this is Houston, ALS, over.
The exercise to test the reactions of troops to atom bombs used in support of an attack.
1, correction, 0, 0, 5,
like
7,
each
2.
other, with different degrees.
Lower right!
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to this episode of Science and Cocktails. Science and Cocktails is an initiative with the purpose of bringing first-class scientific information directly to you, Earthlings, without interference of any other type, sort of intermediate media. Its aim is to make the flow of thoughts and the flow of sensorial perception as smooth as the flow of a cocktail mixture. Tonight's teleportation is the first of this autumn season of 2013 and will be guided by a duo. Thomas Bolander is professor at the Department of Informatics at TTU University and is specialized in logic and artificial intelligence. Vincent Hendricks is professor of formal philosophy at the University of Copenhagen, and it's also specialized in logic and artificial intelligence. Tonight's session will give two different perspectives on the same computer models. On one hand, their applications for creating better artificial intelligence systems, and on the other hand, for modeling human behavior.
Ladies and gentlemen, abstract representations will simultaneously be given by the artist Henrik Schütze, and afterwards, Hamses, the trio, will be playing themes that explore the borderland between composition and improvisation.
And transmission.
Elegant, is it? Yeah, very good. So, I'm going to give you a Bubbles 101 course. Now, a 101 course in all generality is a university course that gives you the fundamental of some principles. And I'm going to talk Bubbles as the fundamental principle. And most of which you're going to see today is basically based on a forthcoming book called Infostorms that's going to come out later this year. Actually, not this year, next year, but pretty close. Okay, now, see, an infostorm is basically a way in which group behavior is amplified or magnified by information technology. So, Joey Nowick once said that the information in the world doubles every day. What they don't tell us is, though, that our wisdom is cut in half at the same time. So, you know, usually we think of the information society as a society in which we actually get more and more information, and the more information we get, the wiser we become. Wrong. Sometimes it's actually the opposite direction, namely the more information we get, the more collectively stupid we become. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that. The principle of that has been well known. It basically stems from a concept that doesn't really come from philosophy, but comes from social psychology. It's called social proof. In a certain sense, it's a little bit of a wrong concept to use because proof we usually associate with math. But in social psychology, it means something else. It basically means influence. Now, if we look at the sources of information, and we look at it from a philosophical perspective, then classically there are two. They are whatever you can get hold of or close to by using your senses, right? Eye, ear, smell, whatever. And then, of course, our magnified or amplified senses, and those are usually couched in terms of everything from Hubble telescopes to computer microprocessors to. Now, the problem is, of course, that even though we consult those a lot, and even though our senses are pretty reliable means for getting information, sometimes we just can't get enough. We can't get enough information out of our senses to make a qualified decision or reach reflective beliefs or whatever it is our goal is. And in the case in which we don't have enough information, there is a second source that comes into play. And that particular source of information or mean of gathering information is what they refer to as social proof in social psychology. It's a well-known thing. I mean, we do it every day. It's whenever we're in doubt and we can't get enough information, then what we tend to do is to look what others have been doing. And if it seems as if they're successful in whatever it is that they're doing, from buying stock to walking across the street, we'll adopt or we'll imitate that particular behavior because we think, well, look, they have success with it. I'm going to adopt that particular model, and off I go. Off I buy, off I believe, off I order, off I this, off I that. So it's a very well-known concept to us to actually imitate others that we believe actually have success in some way or the other. And that's basically all you need to know about social proof. And in a certain sense, that's really all you need to know about what I'm going to say. But let me try to give you a little more of an incentive and a little more insight as to the way in which that works. Now, If you look at bubbles, then bubbles are basically ways in which we aggregate in unfortunate ways either behavior, beliefs, opinions, or preferences, all based on the same fundamental principle of social proof. And so from that perspective, we basically take the concept of a finance bubble or a real estate bubble or bubbles in financial markets, and then we look at the same sort of mechanics, but not for generating profit, but for generating behavior collectively, beliefs collectively, opinions collectively, preferences, and what have you. So let me give you a few examples of that. Now, this is a graph from a recent, very unfortunate collection of collective opinion. Now, Russian Markets is a financial blog where people discuss everything from the cost of chest freezers to new real estate to buy. And on a particular day in January, there was an anonymous tweet that went to say that the Jens Weidmann, who is director of the Deutsche Bundesbank, was going to resign. Now, that particular tweet came on at 10:02. That's the first time it's documented. And you can see it here. The mustard-colored graph basically shows you the amount of time this particular tweet is, tweeted and retweeted and read. And you can see that grows steadily. He has about 40,000 followers, this gentleman, or whoever it is, and it just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing until it reaches its maximum about 20 minutes later at about 250,000 reads and tweets. Now, the green color you see here is the course of the euro. Those two things are now correlated in such a way that the more this time is read and tweeted and retweeted, the euro drops. And it's even retweeted by established sources. So Sam Coates, who's basically chief financial editor of the Times, retweets this thing. You realize this is a rumor, though. We don't know if it's true. And even authoritative sources like he'll do it. And Owen Callan from Danske Bank also tweets it. In the meantime, the euro starts dropping, keeps dropping. Now, after 20 minutes, the euro has lost 0.55% in value. Now, that seems negligent, but you have to realize this, that we are talking a heavily geared market. And micro movements in heavily geared market means a lot of euros. So basically, a tweet is actually able to drop the euro 0.55%. Now, had this been in an established real estate or stock, you would call it stock manipulation. Now we're just basically manipulating opinions. Yeah? Now, Deutsche Bundesbank finds this out at 10:19, and they write out a claim that goes to show that Jens Weidmann is basically in a meeting, and he has no idea or no incentive or no interest in resigning his job. And people will start reading that, and that starts tweeting and retweeting again and again. By the time in which, I didn't take the rest of the graph out, but all out here, about half an hour, the euro has stabilized and the rumor is now gone. But in 20 minutes, okay? In 20 minutes, this apparently becomes so important that both various desperados in the stock market and algorithms will actually trade in such a way that you can drop the euro. Even the Frankfurt Bank knew what it is. This is not a single case. There's a lot of cases like this. The most important one, and the most famous one, is from April 23rd this year, where somebody hacked into the Associated Press with a hoax tweet to the effect that the White House had been hit and Barack Obama had been injured. In 5 minutes, the US stock market lost $200 million. In 5 minutes. Okay? So this is not child's play here. This is real US dollars. There are real euros here. And if one thing we do know about Western society is that they're extremely and acutely sensitive to what goes on in financial market. So if you let this beast loose, you are potentially in a lot of trouble. Of course, this is on finance markets. Let me give you a really nasty example, which is not from the finance market, but which is from the social networks. Now, you might not know Amanda Todd, and for good reason, because she's gone. She is not with us anymore. She died last year, 2012. She was the victim of insane and repulsive and repugnant cyberbullying on the web for years. Now, you might have heard of this story. It was actually on the Danish media too. It was picked up by the Danish media. Even the Danes found themselves their own Amanda Todd. Her name was Fie Laursen. She's now a celebrity and a star, from cyberbullying to stardom. But I guess that could be going in the information age as well. Disconcerting but true. Now, Amanda Todd, let me tell you a little bit about Amanda Todd. On September 7th, 2012, she puts on a video on YouTube that's called My Story, Struggling, Bullying, Suicide, and Self-Harm, where she uses key cards to tell the story of this insane cyberbullying she's been victim of for years. On October 10th, that means roughly a month after this video goes online and becomes viral, more or less instantly, 1.6 million people have seen this video, okay? And on the very same day, on October 10th, she takes her own life. She hangs herself in her room because nobody was doing anything. You know, you people might know people who have been bullied. You certainly do. But none of you know a person who's been bullied and 1.6 million people know about it. Nor do you know people knowing about it to the effect that even online media went online to like this video. What the hell does like mean here? Do you like the fact that she's been bullied? Do you like the fact that she made the video? What is it that you like? A like is ambiguous unless you know what frame it's in. It can mean anything. I'll return to that. Because you might like a lot on social media on upvote stuff, but unless you're very clear about the frame in which you're doing it, you might not actually approve but disapprove of something. So likes may seem innocent, but I'm telling you this, in an aggregated form, they may be the work of the devil, unless, of course, I'm not religious, but they can be pretty nasty things. They seem like innocent gestures, but they might not be. I'll get back to that in a minute. On October 11th, Rip Amanda Todd became a trend all over the world. It was tweeted and retweeted. There was a Facebook memorial page dedicated to her. The last time I checked it had almost 1 million likes. Now, you can't see this down here, but what it also says, there's a disclaimer down in the left-hand corner that says, no hate allowed here. You only like this if you actually have sympathy for Amanda Todd. But despite all of this, it doesn't go to show that somebody would actually still be pretty nasty. I'll tell you this. About a year before her suicide, she tried to commit suicide before by drinking bleach. And she was found in a ditch. Her father found her in a ditch. She came to the hospital and she was medicated and sent home. Now, of course, that information went on Facebook as well. And so people out on Facebook, trolls and others, started to make commercials using the famous Clorox brand, which is the famous Danish chlorine-selskab. And they would make commercials like, make a mess of life, don't worry, Clorox has you covered. Or Clorox bleach, it's to die for. Now, even the Clorox company had to say something about that. That's up in the left-hand corner. On October 15th, 2012, the Clorox company comes out with this claim saying, our deepest condolences go out to Amanda's family and friends. We believe that bullying is an issue that can affect everyone. For information on how to stop bullying, community, blah, 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 so forth and so forth. So even they feel compelled to do something. Despite all of this, on her Facebook page, on her memorial page, there were still trolls who would say things like, rip Amanda Todd, I hope they sell Clorox in hell. Now, why the hell would you say anything like that? Well, basically because registering your opinion on the web as opposed to an interpersonal communication doesn't cost you zilch. You can do it, it's free of charge, it's cost neutral, and once you've actually voiced it, you never have to come back to it. It's very different from the way in which we discuss things usually, because if I call you a moron to your face, or you call me a moron to mine, chances are that we're going to get back at each other and see if we can straighten the situation out. That's not the case on the social media. Now, the question that you were interested in was, why the hell didn't anybody do anything? I should say that if you actually type in Todding on a Google search, you will get this image as the first one. Okay? Now, the question that we were interested in answering was the following. Why didn't anybody do anything? Well, 1.6 million people knew about it, and yet nobody did anything. Now, realize this, that the way in which you apparently express sympathy with Amanda Todd is to give her YouTube video a like, right? That's the way. And so everybody liked it. 1.6 million people liked it, yet nobody did anything. Because all of a sudden there was a norm that the way in which you sympathized with Amanda Todd was to give her a like. Even if it is the case that you actually privately thought that more should have done. So basically you collectively subscribe to a norm that you privately reject. I'll say that again. Collectively, you subscribe to a norm that you privately reject because you think that everybody else thinks it, even though apparently not necessarily nobody or anybody thinks it. Now, this has a term too in social psychology. It's called pluralistic ignorance. It means conditions under which it's legitimate for everybody to remain stupid, unenlightened, unknowledgeable. In other words, a terrible phenomenon. How the hell would that ever come in vogue? Now, the first time we actually know about it is from The Emperor's New Clothes. You all remember this? Yeah? The emperor has no clothes, and the little child said all of a sudden, well, the emperor has no clothes, and all of a sudden that has a domino effect on the entire thing. So it's a fragile phenomenon, but it's robust. As long as you can keep the ignorance bubble going, you're being good. And I'll tell you this, I use this every day on my students. Every day, often. So I give them a homework assignment, and sometimes the next day, there's sort of two options. Either I want them to give me an answer to the questions, or I don't want them. But of course, I can't tell them, forget about yesterday's homework assignment, forget about it, let's move on. That would create a havoc. So what I will usually say to my students is the following. I'll frame the question accordingly. What do you think was difficult with yesterday's homework assignment? And you know how they react? Exactly as you do now. Nobody says anything because nobody says anything, because I'm indicating by the question that the question is hard. And so, since you're uncertain as to what to do, so instead of actually raising your finger, you start orienting, you see what your other fellow students are doing. But if they're doing that at the exact same time, because they're also in doubt, nobody says anything because nobody says anything. Even if nobody understood yesterday's homework assignment. You got it? Now, what I have to do, of course, if I want an answer out of my students, I'll reframe the question, because the problem that I'm actually doing is I force them to orient themselves towards each other before answering the questions. So what I have to do is to remove the orientation act. How do I do that? I reframe it. I say, what do you think other or older or former students had for problems with yesterday's homework assignment? And usually it goes, poof. Because then I move the orientation act, okay? So it's a fragile but robust phenomenon as long as you can keep the illusion going among everybody that everybody thinks, although nobody thinks. Or, if you want to put it differently, everybody collectively subscribes to a norm that they privately reject. Okay? Now, I should say that this we find that in a lot of places. There are actually studies that goes to show this happens on corporate boards too, and in bank executive committees. It's very, very prevalent everywhere. Here's a very strong director in which all his members of the board say, the director says, all those in favor say A, and then everybody goes A, while they privately think, say it ain't so. You gotta be kidding. Perish the thought, heaven forbid, no, 1,000 times no. So again, we privately reject the norm, but collectively actually subscribe to it. Now, this particular effect, or this particular state of mind, it's a collective state of mind, is actually prevalent in a very well-known phenomenon known as the bystander effect. So if you really want to fall and hit yourself hard, where do you want to do it? Somewhere out here where there are people around, but not too many, or in Grand Central Station or Rose Place, or wherever you want to go, where there are thousands and thousands of people that walk by every day. If you want help, do it out here. Don't go where there are a lot of people. And the reason is, again, social proof. If people are in doubt when somebody drops, instead of actually looking at what the problem is, they start looking at what others are doing. And since they're doing that at the same time, nobody will do anything because nobody will do anything. So we actually made a mathematical model of that to see exactly how it plays out. And I guess you sort of know this phenomenon. No? Sometimes we tend to do it ourselves. Even though, of course, the winning strategy is to walk over and ask people if they're okay. But, of course, why would humans do that to each other? Now, we actually have a logical structure that goes along with it with this drawing over here. I don't have time to go into the details. But what I want you to show is that there's a lot of bystander experiments out there. And basically, they seem to be robust over the idea, namely, it's not quite inversely proportional. But the chances of you getting help are almost inversely proportional to the number of people that experience your accident. all right? Nasty stuff. So so there are a lot of bystander experiments out there, but they are all small controlled experiments. So we wanted to know exactly what happens in the long run. Is this robust over 1,000 or 1,000,000 trials? Of course, we can't do 1,000 such experiments, but what we can do is to make a computer simulation, and we actually, based on this model, made that simulation. I know that none of you look like little sheep with a vision cone and a radar around you, but be that as it may, that's the way we modeled it. One of the problems that we had, that we couldn't calibrate it properly. We didn't have a scenario in the literature that would sort of fit this particular model. So we figured, let's do some bystander experiments instead. So on Christiania, on July 10th, 2013, between 9:30 and 14, we had 80 interventions with 3 different actors, 2 characters each, and 3 cameras. Now, you may see here that this is actually Christiania's cross contour. This is Valendorf's running here, Kronprinsessegade on the other hand, and over here you have Klarbruderne. There's actually a tattoo shop on the corner of Klarbruderne and Christiania. I didn't know actually, but we placed the camera up there watching down. She was supposed to drop here. We did one that was actually in the window frame of an optician that is right there, and then we did one on top shooting down of the post office. Now, I have a little bit of footage I'd like to show you. This is a terrible case. Now, you have to pay attention to a gentleman that will come walking up in a second. Let's see here. Here we go. So pay attention to this gentleman in a red jacket that comes walking by in a second. Now, I hope you can see it. It's not. So you have to look at this frame here. Here's the lady who is actually dropping in a second. And in a second, you will see a gentleman in a red jacket. He's holding a sign in his hand. And there is a particular reason why he will do that. Because he's a guide. He's guiding tourists. Now, this gentleman clearly sees the accident. And the question is, what happened to his followers? Come on, goddammit, what's taking you so long? Here he comes. Here's the gentleman. Look, he sees him. You can see that there. And here are all his tourists. Look at what they're doing. 25 tourists follow him right over the edge. You get the idea? They even see somebody actually stand, they think she's a piece of installation art. Somebody actually take pictures of her. So basically the idea is this, right? Don't you just love resolute and decisive leadership when everybody walks over the edge? And she's clearly in trouble. None of them do nothing. All right, so there is something to this. And he's actually a very strong public signal that nothing is needed. Okay, let me move on here. So bystander effect is one thing that actually factors into the Amanda Todd thing. What?
Please talk slowly.
No. I don't have time. I have 5 minutes left. I'll try. Okay. So, where did I? Okay, yeah. So that was bystander effect. Another effect that actually happens is what's called informational cascades. It's actually where you have truthful information yourself, but because everybody apparently around you seems to think something else, you're going to drop your personal opinion, even though it's truthful, just to follow along what other people are doing. Now, you can sell books with this. And I don't know if you know this story, but I'll tell you this story. This is an excellent story. Now, in 2007, Sex in the City comes out as a movie. And in that particular movie, Sarah Jessica Parker, a.k.a. Carrie Bradshaw, is reading a book. You can see that. She's lying in her bed, and Mr. Big is lying beside her. The cover of the book is Love Letters of Great Men. Now, after the movie comes out, everybody wants to get the soundtrack, the carpet, the blanket, the t-shirt, and of course, also the book she's reading. So everybody goes to Amazon to buy Love Letters of Great Men. Now, in 2007, there is no such thing on Amazon.com called Love Letters of Great Men. It doesn't exist. But there is another book. It's called Love Letters of Great Men and Women. That's pretty close, so people start buying that. That particular book starts climbing up the list. And the Amazon algorithm can see that there is a correlation between people buying the soundtrack and this book, so they do a package deal. Now, after about 3 months, 3 small publishers go, what book is it really that people are reading? It turns out that this book is from 1926. I think it's way off in 2007. And this Love Letters of Great Men and Women is written by an unknown author named C.H. Charles. C.H. Charles dies in 1926, so there is no such thing as copyright. And so they reissue the book with some fancy covers that seems to indicate that it could have something to do with Sex and the City, and they start selling that book. But since there's no copyright, you can call the book whatever you want. So they shorten the title from Love Letters of Great Men and Women to Love Letters of Great Men. And they sell that. Now that book makes number 134 on the Amazon.com all-time bestseller list. And you get people to buy a product that doesn't exist. Shall we give him a hand? Now, what is it that Amazon.com knows? They know this. They know this. If you can actually do it in such a way that you get the first 1,000 decision makers, or whatever it is, significant number to go left, everybody don't give a rat's ass about their private right-hand signal. They'll go left with you. But that's basically suppressing your private information just to be on par with everybody else. Okay, now, we have a model of that too. I'll skip that. I'll have one last thing that actually goes to show this in a very nasty way. Now, you can cascade left or right, or you can with likes or dislikes or upvotes or downvotes, but now, what does a like really mean? It's the most used gesture on Facebook. So let's take a look at that. Now, the reason why you can only upvote on Facebook now is because you have to keep a positive tone. So that means approving, showing sympathy, acknowledgement, respect, encouragement, reference, awareness, etc. That's all positive. But there are also studies that goes to show that it actually may go the other way around, because whatever it is that you like is going to be acutely sensitive to the frame in which it's formulated. So there are Facebook pages that actually where people meet around their common interest in raping women. Misogyny pages. They have a lot of likes. Now, but there's nothing positive about that. In the same way, down here in the corner, there is a Facebook page where people meet around their common knowledge, or common interest rather, in decapitations. Now, if you can't read it down here, but here's a woman who's getting her head cut off for cheating on her husband. It has 2,500 likes. Okay. So it's the frame that decides whether the like is a positive or a negative one. Now, that means that if you frame the like in a wrong frame, it could mean disapproval, anti-sympathy, hate, extremism, disrespect, slandering, harassment, and so forth. So the thing to like is a private signal for each one of you who likes. And you can like for many reasons. But when you aggregate it, all of a sudden becomes a very strong public signal that people have to orientate themselves against to make a qualified decision if they don't have it. But an ambiguous signal is a really difficult signal. It's like going down to Grand Central to catch a train to Hoboken from Manhattan, and you don't know where to go, and so what you do is you wait in the hear to what the public announcement is going to be, and the public announcement goes, the train to Hoboken at leave from platform, and then where the hell am I going to go? And that's basically an aggregated like that becomes a disambiguous public signal. Is really a nasty thing, because people might actually aggregate their beliefs in such a way that people will actually look to that direction, even though the signal is garbled. And they will use that for decision all the same. Now, the last thing I want to show you here is basically we are in bubble trouble, to the effect of saying, if we aggregate opinion in the wrong way, and then stick information technology on top of that, we can actually amplify irrational group behavior beyond what we have ever seen before based on social proof. Because these phenomena are as old as we are, but we have never seen them traverse as fast as they do. So let me end with this cartoon here, where it says up here, just a normal day at the nation's most important financial institution. This little gentleman goes, I got stock here that would really excel. Really excel? Excel? What do you mean, sell? Sell, sell, sell. Everybody shouts sell. And they keep shouting sell until this little gentleman down here in the corner says, this is madness, I can't take it anymore. Goodbye, buy, 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 buy. And then everybody buys. And then again, the little gentleman in the corner goes, let's do another round. He goes, I've got stock here that would really, and so forth. So be aware of that. Thank you very much.
Måske skal jeg trække den tilbage, så vi ikke forstyrrer for læreren til at skal bruge den.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, right. Well, there's still one talk to go before you can have more cocktails. So thanks a lot, Vincent, for a great and very inspiring talk. So I will continue the theme of social intelligence. But my primary goal is not to study human social interaction and try to analyze and understand what is going on when humans are engaging in social situations. Rather, that my ultimate goal is to build robots and other artificial intelligence systems that can actually show off some social skills, that have some degree of social intelligence. But we use a lot of, Vincent and I, we use a lot of the same methods and means and ideas to work with these things. And you might say that Vincent gave me a pretty bad start to this because essentially his talk was one long horror story of how bad even we humans are at social reasoning. So he gave examples with social proof, bystander effect, informational cascades, etc. So you might think, okay, if we humans essentially suck at social reasoning, how can we even start to think about building robots that can do any kind of social reasoning? But I want to make a point that behind all these examples that Vincent gave, there's actually something quite magnificent going on. So, of course, there's these examples where everything falls apart and everything goes wrong. But we humans have quite a unique ability in social reasoning. So if you think about the examples that Vincent gave, then they're all about a situation where a human being is observing other humans, and the other humans are performing some action, and then the human that is observing the actions is trying from these actions to figure out what goes on inside of the head of the other people. So some people are doing something, and then I try to see, okay, if you're doing that, what might it be that you want to do, or what do you believe? When I see you do this, then it means that you have a certain belief. Like, for instance, if you state a like for a certain page, I might try to predict or try to understand why you're making this particular like in this particular situation. The point is that we humans have a quite unique ability to put ourselves into other person's shoes or take the perspective of others. Whenever we see another human being performing a task or doing an action, we try to figure out why this person is doing it. What is it that this person wants to achieve? What is it that this person believes that makes this person act in this particular way? And even though in the worst case it can lead to all these horror stories, in particular, if at some point you make a wrong guess, I'm trying to guess what's inside another person's head, and I'm making a wrong guess, and if you have a lot of persons involved, that wrong guess might create a catastrophic informational cascade. But in most cases, it is actually going very well, and it's actually a pretty essential part of human intelligence. So let me try to give you an example of this. So here we have a social experiment. Some of you might have seen the video. It has already been shown at one of the previous Science and Cocktails. The test subject here is a small child, 15 months old. And the child has not in any way been instructed about what to do in this setting. So let's see what happens.
Boom.
Yeah, so there's still hope for humanity, right? So even though Vincent has all the horror stories, I have one good story to tell. Now, this is really impressive. Let me show it again while I talk about it. So what is apparently happening is that this small child, even though he's only 15 months old, looks at this and he recognizes what this adult is trying to do, right? So he recognizes that the adult has a goal of getting this stack of papers into the cabinet. And then he thinks, oh, okay, so this person is, for some reason he cannot open the cabinet. He doesn't have any free hands. I can help him. Let me help him. And then he does it, okay? And the basic skill here, which is very important, it's the same basic skill as in all the examples that Vincent was talking about, but this is just one of the good examples. The basic skill here is that the child can somehow put himself in the shoes of the adult and see things from the adult's perspective and realize, oh, this adult has a goal of putting these papers into the cabinet, but he cannot do it, so I can help him out. And this ability that we have as humans is really very essential. So even though it can somehow sometimes lead to these problems with informational cascades and etc., then we should be very thankful that we have this ability, because if we didn't, then it would be completely impossible for humans to live together. I will try to give you some examples later on about the same. So let us now move to a different setting. So it's a robotic setting. So the problem is that when we move to robots and AI, then they struggle really hard with interpreting these social settings. And they are really bad at trying to put themselves into other people's shoes. And this is what I'm going to show you in a moment. I just want to tell you what this is about. So it's a robot called Tuck that has been used at the hospital of Southern Jutland for a year now. It's a very well-known robot, so it's working at approximately 100 hospitals in the United States. But this is the first time that it has been introduced to Europe, so let's see what happens. Yeah, so please contrast that with the case of the 15-month-old child, right? So and let's see this moment again. So I don't know if you're able to see it, but she's actually, yes, she's working at this van. She's not even trying to move anywhere. But the robot just comes, well, at least it doesn't bump into her, but it doesn't do anything else, and it has obstacle avoidance. It just stops and do nothing. And then she has to move away. This is not good, I would say. We would want these robots to be the ones that would be going around us and not the other way around. And of course, the problem is here that whereas the humans and the child had this ability to put itself into another person's place, then robots don't have this ability. The robot cannot look at the cleaning lady and say, oh, there's a cleaning lady, I can see she's working, I better not disturb her right now. I can just move around and pretend that I'm not here. It cannot do that, unfortunately. Now, more examples with the Tuck robot. So they have a lot of experience, as I said, in the States, and I would like to give you some quotes from the experience that people have with this Tuck robot. First quote: Tuck was a hospital worker, and its colleagues expected it to have some social smarts, the absence of which led to frustration. For example, when it always spoke in the same way in both quiet and busy situations. So you can probably imagine, it's pretty, it's not pleasant to hear to slow-paced robotic voices in any situation at all. But of course, in busy situations where people are dying around you, that's really terrible. This is not the kind of hospital working robot we would like. Another example, a nurse is sitting in her office. She's on the phone, and then the Tuck robot comes into the office with a report for her, and it says Tuck has arrived. Since, yeah, well, that's how it's programmed. So, but she's on the phone, so she doesn't react. I mean, if it had been a human, then even the human might even have said, "Oh, I'm here now. Oh, can't you see me?" But if the human realized that she was on the phone, he or she would probably have left and come back 5 minutes later. But this is not what talk does. It repeats. Obviously, she didn't hear it, right? So he says, "Tuck has arrived." Then a few seconds, Tuck has arrived. She's still on the phone. Then finally, she screams out to the robot, "I'm on the phone. If you say Tuck has arrived one more time, I'm going to kick you in the camera." And this is, I mean, I'm not making this up. These are actual quotes. Final example. So the chief surgeon says this: "It doesn't have the manners we teach our children. I find it insulting that I stand out of the way for patients, but it just barrels right on." So you can see, obviously, there's something missing in these robots. And what is missing is their ability to take the perspective of others, to put themselves into other person's shoes, to understand all these social situations. And if you don't have that ability, you have next to nothing. So it is true when Vincent says that having this ability that we humans have, actually it's very difficult for us to see any situation at all without giving it some social interpretation. But this ability actually has some very good properties, because all of these situations would usually not happen with humans, because we are able to interpret these social situations. Now, this ability of putting yourself into other people's shoes, trying to predict what other people are going to do, or trying to guess what they believe based on the actions they perform, has a name. It's called theory of mind. A technical definition sounds like this. So theory of mind is the ability of attributing mental states, beliefs, intentions, desires, etc. to other agents. And let me just give you one more example of what this theory of mind business is about. So, assume that tomorrow morning I wake up and I have lost my theory of mind. It's just gone, okay? And then I try to go through my ordinary day. So the first thing I do, as always, is I go into the shower. That goes very well. It's not a social act of any type. I can do this all by myself, so it's not a problem. I don't have this theory of mind. Now, after I leave the shower, I go into the kitchen, and my wife is in the kitchen. And she's going like this. She's going towards the fridge, obviously trying to get something from the fridge. But I don't have a theory of mind anymore, so I cannot interpret that. I just go in front of her, open the fridge, and take out whatever I need, close it, and walk away. Now, if I had my theory of mind, I would understand, I would observe her behavior and see that, okay, she's also going for the fridge. So maybe either I can offer to take whatever she needs from the fridge, or I can say, oh, could you please also take the milk for me? A few minutes later, she's spreading butter on her bread with a knife, and I look at the knife and, oh, this is a really nice knife. This is the kind of nice knife I need for my task. And I don't have my theory of mind. I cannot put myself in her shoes and understand that she actually needs this knife. So I just take it out of her hands and use it. Now, if then the next day I wake up and then my theory of mind is back, then okay, I will probably be forgiven for my behavior the day before. But if it keeps on being like this and my theory of mind is gone forever, then certainly our marriage is not going to last very long. So the problem is, if you don't have a theory of mind, you are going to treat everything as a physical object, the same way you treat a physical object. So I would be treating my wife as I would be treating a chair. Of course, okay, it's a moving chair, but in some cases it's moving around, and that's a bit odd. But I have no way of interpreting why it's moving around. I have no way of attributing feelings or beliefs or goals or intentions or anything. This is just some physical object that moves around for one reason or another. So we really need this theory of mind. It's essential for successful social interaction. And as you could see, in the case of humans, we have it. The case with the 15-month-old child shows that we have this, and that it works even in very small children, which I think is really fascinating. But we don't have it in robots, as the other video with the talk robot clearly showed. Okay. So you have this a bit complicated concept of theory of mind, this popularly speaking ability to put yourself into other people's shoes. But it would be nice to get a deeper understanding of what it is about, in particular if you want to build robots that can act socially appropriate. So one thing that one can do is to try to look at what people have been doing in cognitive psychology. So they have found out that one of the things that characterize autistic children is that they have a rather limited theory of mind. So they are much worse at theory of mind reasoning than other children. So the way that children are today diagnosed for autism is actually that they try to figure out whether these children have a well-functioning theory of mind or not. And they do it through these tests that are called false belief tasks. And one of them is the Sally-Ann test. I'm now going to give you the Sally-Ann test, right? So we're going to once and for all find out whether you're all autistic children or not. So what you're doing is, in this test, is that you perform a little play for the child. So you tell the child a story, which is a little play. And there are two characters in this play, Sally and Ann, and these are either dolls or small girls, but unfortunately Sally and Ann couldn't be here today, so we have to find something else. So I will be one of them, and then I need a volunteer, so I think, Vincent, perhaps you can be my volunteer for the test here.
Yes, sir, so I'll be Sally.
Right. So what we do is we play a bit around with this beautiful red cube. And then at some point, Vincent decides to put the red cube into the large tin. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Voluntarily decides to put the red cube into the large tin.
Yes, sir, I will certainly do.
And then Vincent suddenly feels an urge to go to the toilet. And then, while Vincent is gone, I do this. And it's a quick pee, so Vincent is already coming back. Did you enjoy it?
It was great. Yeah. Wonderful.
Right, so the question you now ask to the children, or in this case you, is where is Vincent first going to look for the red cube? Now, if you're not autists, you're going to say that he will look in the large tin, because he didn't see that it had been moved to the small one, right? So he probably still believes it here, or at least considers most plausible that it's over here. If you're an autistic child, you're going to say this one, because it is in this one. So the child will say, but it is in this one. So how can Vincent think otherwise? Because they cannot see things from other people's perspectives. They can only see it from their own perspective. They cannot represent the world from more than one perspective, namely their own. Okay? And this works very well, and it's as I said, used to diagnose children for autism.
I'm done now, yes?
I think you're done, yeah, thanks. Guest performance. Right. But let's try to understand what is going on in this Sally-Ann test a bit better. So I have made this picture here. Right. Yeah. So here we have Thomas and we have Vincent. If you forgot which of one is which, then I have used some color coding in the heads here. So yes. Right. So let's look at this. This is a scenario after the red cube has been moved to the small tin, and that we're both present again. Then I've been using these thought balloons to try to describe the model that the different agents have of the world. That is the way that they see the world. So in this case, I see the world in the way that the red cube is in the small tin, because I know it's there, I put it there, right? But the way Vincent sees the world is that the red cube is in the large tin, because he didn't know that it had been moved. Now I'm thinking about this robot that I would like to give a theory of mind. If this robot doesn't have a theory of mind, or it could be a human, then the model that robot will have of the world will look something like this, the big thought bubble up here. So you have a representation of the two tins and of the cube, and the robot knows that there's a person called Thomas and there's a person called Vincent, but you also have these thought bubbles up here, and you can see that they're empty. Okay? So the situation is here that the robot knows that there's a Thomas and there's a Vincent and there's a red cube in the small tin, but it doesn't know anything about what goes on inside the head of neither Vincent nor me. Then having a theory of mind is having this picture. So what I have been doing now is I have added models inside models. And this is in a sense what theory of mind is about, because theory of mind is about me not only having a model of the physical objects in my surroundings, but also a model of the kind of model you might have in your head. And of course I can have then a model of Vincent's model of my model, and a model of Vincent's model of my model of Vincent's model of someone else's model. And then you can get a kind of, you can imagine that you get an infinite regress this way. So of course we're dealing with something quite complicated here. And then it sounds pretty difficult to do anything like this with a computer or robot. But actually it's possible. So when we look at this theory of mind test, or these false belief tasks, then as I said in the beginning, my ultimate goal is to create computers and robots that are socially intelligent. And as I also said, a very important component here, ooh, a robot. Yes, great. So the very first thing is to try to equip them with a theory of mind, so that they get this ability to put themselves into other people's shoes. Now, a very nice test case to work with this is trying to work with these false belief tasks, trying to pass a Sally-Ann, or as we call it now, a Vincent Thomas test. So let's see how it can be done. And now it gets a bit technical, but I hope not too much. I just want to show you how you can actually work with this in a computer without getting overly technical, but at least give you a flavor of what goes on. So what you do is to try to put models like this into a computer. This is a picture of the initial situation where the red cube is outside of the bins and Vincent is in the room. Now, as you can see, there's a strange arrow here marked V, T, and O. V is for Vincent, T is for Thomas, and O is for the observer. What this arrow here means is that we all see this world. We all know that this is the actual world, that it looks like this. Now, the first thing that happens in the Sally-Ann test is that the red cube is being placed in the large tin. Okay? And in the beginning, we all observe this. So the picture of how the world looks is just being changed in this simple way. Then Vincent leaves the room. The only thing that changes is that Vincent is now no longer a part of the picture here. But now it gets a bit interesting, because now I take the cube and I transfer it to the small bin. And as you can see, something more complicated happened down here at the bottom of the picture. Because now there's two pictures. It means that now there's two alternative realities, that there are two possible ways the world might look. And we have different beliefs about how the world looks. So this arrow that you have down here actually means that even though the real world is this one, the cube is in the small tin, then Vincent thinks that this is the real world. Vincent finally comes back, And the point is now that if you look at a model like this, then you can actually answer all questions you would like about who believes what in this situation. So you can also pass a Salian test. You can actually look at this and you can see that the observer, that is you in this case, you know that we are in a situation where Vincent believes that the situation is different, where Vincent believes that the red cube is in the large 10.
I'm sorry, but Vincent is Thomas.
No, Vincent is Vincent. Ah, yes, right. Oh, not good. Now, of course, this is still too, this is still too human-like in order for a computer to work well. So computers don't like pictures. But what you can do if you want to put this into a computer, you can replace pictures by formulas. This is what we do all the time. So we replace these pictures by some logical formulas that describe the same thing. And computers like those. So we do this in all these pictures. So now we have something which a computer likes a bit more. A computer still doesn't like something like expressions in natural language because they're ambiguous and the computers don't really understand that. But we can also replace this by logical structures that explain what takes place when we go from one of these to the next. And now I'm not expecting you to understand what is on the whiteboard, on the slide now, but this is not meant for humans, this is meant for computers. Computers love this kind of stuff, and they can do these kind of calculations. So what we can do is actually, we can make a computer do these calculations, meaning that we can make a computer pass the Salian test. Now, I'm not making any claims that what we do as humans when we pass the Salian test is this. I don't know, simply. Nobody knows. We don't know exactly what takes place inside the brain. So maybe what we do is rather different, but at least if we want to make socially competent robots, at least we should have one way of modeling theory of mind. We should have one way of allowing these robots to think about other robots and what other robots or other humans believe. So, okay, I'm almost done. So I promised sort of that I would touch a bit on science fiction. And I'm going to do that by returning to the tug robot. So one of the guys who got the tug robots to the hospital of Southern Jutland has said this: there has been incidents where the ambulance personnel couldn't wait for tug to move away, then they went and pushed it. Right, okay. Fair enough, they kind of have to. But then let's compare with something from science fiction. So in science fiction, there are these very famous laws of robotics by Isaac Asimov. And the first law of robotics is that a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Right. So if you have one of these hospital robots and it's blocking the way to the elevator and the ambulance personnel comes in with a guy who's almost dying and he just stands there do nothing, then it's actually violating this first rule, right? It allows a human being to come to harm. So actually these things start to become relevant, but maybe in another way than that the science fiction writers had expected. Because what I think is important here, that if you want to show consideration to other people, then there's two things that you need. You need the intention to do so. You need to want to do good. But you also need the ability. And a lot of people have been looking mainly at this, about the intention. How do we make sure that the robots will only do good and not try to interpret these laws in a strange way? But the problem that we are facing, at least today, is not a problem of inattention, it's a problem of ability. A robot doesn't understand what this means. It doesn't understand how it can avoid through inaction to allow a human being to come to harm, because it doesn't have a theory of mind. It doesn't have a way of understanding these social phenomena. Right. Okay, so the title of our talk was something we tried to answer this question of whether we are collectively rational or socially stupid. And I would say that, humans are mainly collectively rational, but the robots are certainly at this point social stupid. So even though we have these nasty horror stories from Vincent, then I would say that since we have this theory of mind, we're actually quite intelligent and we do pretty well in most everyday situations. So if you need a conclusion or take-home message, I would say that it is this. So robots certainly, at the current state of affairs, robots certainly need a theory of mind to learn to behave well in a world of humans. We wouldn't want to be in a world with a lot of robots all around us if they don't have a theory of mind. I can tell you that it's not going to be pleasant. So if we want to have a lot of robots around us, hospital robots, household robots, whatever, then certainly we need to learn them how to do this. And for humans, the take-home message is that, well, we have it. We are actually very good at applying theory of mind, in particular in the basic cases. But of course, it can go wrong. This is what Vincent has been showing us. So we have to be a bit more careful, and let those be my last words. Thanks.
Let's thank Thomas and Vincent. Does anybody have questions for either?